Hello and welcome to Bottom Line. Well, today was the first day of lockdown 3.0 and the relaxations that it brought came in as a relief to many. However, social distancing norms also went for a toss at several places. We'll take an update on that from our correspondents and also discuss the issue with the panelists tonight. But before that, we shall discuss the current situation in Tripura, where as many as 14 people, all BSF Jawans, tested positive in a span of 48 hours, tested positive for COVID-19. Does this mean that our forces, paramilitary forces in particular, are a vulnerable lot because of the contact with civilians that they have with regular intervals? They're on duty, and that also includes our police force. As we all know, a number of CRPF Jawans had earlier tested positive in Delhi, and now the situation in Tripura has also almost taken a similar turn. Well, to discuss the issue, I'll be joined by Lieutenant Colonel retired Suneet Newton from Chandigarh. He was posted in the region for quite a while. We'll also be joined shortly over the phone by IG BSF Tripura Frontier, Mr. Solomon Yash Kumar Mins will connect with us over the phone shortly. In the studios in Guwahati, we have Dr. Sangeeta Datta, psychiatrist. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining us. If I can go to Lieutenant Colonel Suneet Newton first. Mr. Newton, how challenging do you think are these times of pandemic for the forces? We know that a unit as we call in the army or the paramilitary, they are a close-knit like a family, and forces also have interaction with the outside world, with the civilians. So how challenging do you think it is?
See, the challenges which are, there for everybody around the world and around our country are same challenges which the forces also face. Because the coronavirus per se does not see that if it's a man in uniform or he's not in a uniform. So the challenges are very akin, are very similar to both the setups, whether it's a civilian setup or whether it's a defense setup. Defense, I mean to say all the tri-services. But certainly, by the virtue of our organization and the training, which the defense forces are trained all their lives, discipline, comes in naturally. And in this entire fight against the COVID-19, the corona, discipline is very important. That what we have been seeing has been insisted by our political leaders, by our prime minister, in whenever he has interacted with the nation. He has always spoken about discipline, and so discipline comes naturally to the forces. So that makes it a little easier for the forces to enforce the laid down guidelines within the
Yes,
organization.
we are being joined over the phone right now by Mr. Solomon Yash Kumar Mins, the IG BSF Tripura Frontier. Mr. Mins, as we know that in a span of 48 hours, 14 BSF Jawans tested positive. Well, these are times of crisis for the entire nation, and for paramilitary forces, the problem is that they come in contact with the civilian population. So in such a situation, what are the special preventive measures you are taking for the safety of the men, for the safety of the Jawans?
You see, we have been ensuring social distancing both at the campus and outside the campus. Each and every personnel of BSF in the frontier has been provided with masks. They are maintaining social distancing even while managing the fence gate. Even when they are even when they are coming in contact with the civilians, they are maintaining social distance. Number one. Number two, as far as the campuses are concerned, we have put it under complete lockdown. We had completely cut it off from all outside contacts, no newspapers, no milk supplies, nothing from outside. All our grocery supplies are coming only at the gates. All our campuses are being regularly disinfected, and we are using hygiene. All sort of instructions have been given for regular hand wash, use of sanitizers. All this has been provided at the BOP level. Moreover, our medical officers are continuously on the move. They are visiting each and every BOP. All senior officers are continuously moving the BOPs and sensitizing each and every personnel at the BOP level how to maintain hand hygiene, how to keep on washing their hands, what are the do's and don'ts and the SOPs that have been issued from time to time by the headquarters as well as the Ministry of Health and Family Welfare and MHA guidelines. So all these SOPs are being followed scrupulously. We have also been making our masks. We have also procured our PPEs. So everything is in line. We have also been making circles wherever our gates are or wherever we are supposed to come in contact with the civilians. Even at the fence gates, where we come in contact with people living ahead of the fence, in case they have to be brought in or they have to be frisked, we are taking due precautions that is required under the circumstances. While maintaining social distancing, we are doing it, and we are regularly briefing people. Almost on a day-to-day basis, we are conducting video conferences, and we are regularly visiting and sensitizing our...
All right. Yes, you have been taking a lot of measures, sir, but nevertheless, a certain amount of risk factor does remain. For instance, the head constable was the first to test positive in Tripura for COVID, came from Assam in the month of March, March 11 to be precise, and was duly put in quarantine as far as we know. But despite that, he must have contracted the virus. He must have picked up the infection from somewhere in the district, in the state maybe. So the risk factor remains thereby, irrespective of all these measures. Would you agree?
Well, we have been compulsorily quarantining, as you rightly said. All those who have returned from the leave or even from the temporary duties, they all have been compulsorily quarantined. Even now, whoever is being brought from leave, they are being brought only by our BSF buses. They are being collected only by BSF units, even in the other frontiers who have been collected, and whoever have been brought have been compulsorily quarantined. So that apart, of course, if you say, suppose if our people are working in the border, so technically there is a risk, but certainly that risk arises only when you come in contact with someone who is trying to infiltrate maybe, or someone if you catch hold of a smuggler in the border. But to the best of our knowledge, we have not yet come in contact. Whatever infiltrators have been caught, we have maintained social distance even with such people. We have handled them maintaining social distancing. So that's how we have done it. Now, if this case has come, so definitely I cannot say that he has not contracted. He must have contracted, because this person, the head constable Sonowal, he had returned on 11th of March. And he had showed signs on the 24th of April, as per the record. Let us say he has started having symptoms on the 23rd evening, maybe, at the most day earlier. So even then, there's a time lag of more than a month. In fact, it's around more than 1 month, 10 days. So we cannot say that he has not been quarantined. He must have come in contact with someone. So we are also trying to trace the contacts. We are already in the process. We have already traced the list of several people who may have come in direct contact with him, because he was holding a very critical charge within the battalion. He was a battalion quartermaster who normally issues the stores and he collects the stores and this kind of stuff. So naturally, he has come in contact with these people. So that is the worry for us. So now we are also worried that how did he contract this kind of infection? Where did he get it from? So that is, of course, our concern, and we are trying to find out through contact tracing. That is yet to be conclusively established, I would say. As far as conceptually the risk is concerned, of course, everyone is at risk. We are, after all, not sitting idle. We have to go out. We have to work in the border.
Absolutely.
Even all our senior officers, we are moving out, and we are making night halts wherever necessary. So that is the amount of, that is the kind of risk. Suppose if there's an infiltrator, we had infiltrated in the sub-room few days back, you all know. We are having infiltration here and there of lunatic persons. We have been getting such cases. So wherever you are handling them, even from a distance, conceptually there is a risk. That is true. But we can take due precautions, which they have been instructed to. They have been provided with the necessary equipment that is required to maintain the social distance and take and protect themselves. So that has been done, I would say, and that is being complied with quite meticulously. Now it is quite surprising for us too. We are also equally concerned that where did he get this infection from? Did he go somewhere and met some civilian maybe in the market, or maybe in some pan shop or somewhere? So that is, of course, a concern. So we are still trying to find out
Absolutely,
the source,
absolutely. Yeah, yes, the forces are concerned, all preventive measures are in place, but well, nothing is foolproof maybe during these times of pandemic. Well, thank you, Mr. Minj. We hope that measures will be stepped up further.
Thank you very much. But I must want to assure that there is no need to panic. It is completely localized within a battalion. It is within a campus. So naturally, we are trying to contact, we are doing contact tracing. The samples are being collected and will certainly localize it. So there is no reason for anyone to fear, no reason for anyone to panic among the civilian population in and around the campus of Ambassa.
Thank you.
That much I can say. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Solomon Yashkumar Minj. That was the IG BSF Tripura Frontier. Dr. Sangeeta Datta, when the forces, when something afflicts the forces, it also takes a hit on the morale of the civilian population, and especially when it's paramilitary. We need, for instance, we have a curfew. We have a curfew going on in every part of the northeast, including Assam, including Guwahati, 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. To enforce everything, you need the paramilitary to be on ground. So when something afflicts them, it definitely also has an impact on the civilian population, psychologically for sure, because everyone still looks, that uniform still gives a sense of security and safety.
It does. It is similar to what would happen when health professionals are afflicted, because for a lay person, it is like this, these are people, certain people working in the front line. They are supposed to be superhuman. Sometimes we like to look at things that way, that these people are invincible. They know, they follow all the guidelines. They are the people who are responsible to keep us safe and secure. Now, when these people whom we consider to be superheroes, they could be people in the defense, BSF, or they could be healthcare professionals, when they are affected by this pandemic or they are infected by COVID-19, what happens is a lay person would feel shaky, generally speaking, because they would think that these people were aware, they knew everything, they took all the precautions, they followed the guidelines. Nevertheless, things were not foolproof. Does that mean that we are even more vulnerable? When you rely on people who would save us from a crisis or a pandemic or from a disaster, and when these people who are supposed to be having more power and more ability to protect themselves are affected, definitely it affects our morale too. It somewhere, breaks or shakes us completely. It does. But having said that, again, I would like to say something else here too. Like the IG BSF a short while back, he said that well, contact tracing is being tried, and this person, the first person who actually contracted this virus, must have got it from some civilian or some place. So they're trying to find out. So it is not magic. It is all logical. It is just that we don't know how he got this virus. And we hope that with proper contact tracing, we'll come to know the source of infection. And so it can affect anyone. It can affect a person in uniform. It can affect you, me, everybody. It is just that everybody needs to follow the guidelines. And nobody is safe when they're careless.
If I can go back to Lieutenant Colonel retired Suneet Newton. Suneet, one straightforward question, okay? Is social distancing even practically possible in the units and the posts? What are the practical challenges? Is it even possible? Because what we know from the barracks and the units is that soldiers, they stay together as a family, they live together, and there is, there is enough space, yes, but they're in the same room, probably using the same, in some cases, the same toilets. Of course, all hygiene processes followed, but still, social distancing as we speak of it today, is it practically possible in the units?
See, I'll break up this question of yours into two. One is it practically possible? And secondly, how is it enforced? Am I right? That's the question. See, practically is very much possible because we have laid down systems for everything. Not only that, you see, in a normal situation, I would say pre-COVID situation, hygiene and cleanliness has always been an integral part of the defense establishments. especially places where people are staying, which is inhabited by people, like the living lines we call it, or our cook houses or our dining halls. If you see over a period of time in my service in the army for about 25, 26 years, right from the day one, the sense of right from the academy training or for the Jawans, they are trained in the various training centers. The concept of hygiene, cleanliness is instilled into the minds of people naturally. So basically, when you talk about social distancing, like in a line, line is a barrack. Say a barrack is about, say around 30 feet, 30 by 20. So the beds, the way they are put, it ensures that there's adequate space between two beds and likewise. So basically, the people are already trained, are already there, they are psychologically attuned. So the challenge actually reduces. Now, number one, the second part of the question which I could make out was about enforcing it. You see, as I told you in the beginning, discipline comes very naturally to the defense forces. And by the virtue of its organization, there is a system of passage of orders, and not only passage of orders, but also of ensuring, that those orders are, followed in letter and spirit. So basically, I don't. There's no problem in enforcing it, and practically in all across the Indian Army units, the Air Force, and the naval units, it's being practiced. And in fact, to the last, in complete letter and spirit, I would say.
But Lieutenant Colonel Suneet Newton, these are times of lockdown. Yes, there may be, all that measures that you spoke about, but still there is a limited interaction with the outside world. Just as we heard the BSF IG Chupra Frontier saying that, people, at least for the army, you need not go out maybe, but in forward posts, maybe in Kashmir, even army men have to venture out. Similarly, the paramilitary is out. Forces cannot be restricted to the units. So a little bit of risks factor remains. Nevertheless, you will agree?
You see, you have to see it that way, Mr. Goswami, that as the nation per se integrally has taken adequate measures to ensure this kind of social distancing. Now, what you asked about the defense personnel getting into physical contact with the civilian counterparts, you cannot totally avoid it, certainly. But the people now you have to look at it in two ways. One is the people who are there within the defense establishments, then there's a set of people who were on various, were on leave at their respective homes and all that. So basically, what happened was that those people, by the virtue of the lockdown happening, they could move. But now we have to also keep in mind that those people, by the virtue of the discipline which is instilled in them, are already maintaining that social distancing in their respective homes. And not only that, they are also acting as social messengers to the society around them that this social distancing is the major requirement today. Now, coming to the defense establishment, firstly, we are ensuring that the people don't move out other than on very essential duties. And when they are to move out on essential duties, then all the precautions, all the laid down precautions are taken in the fullest. So therefore, you see the chances of physical contact and resultant, communication of the infection reduces that much. So I take it as foolproof. Yeah, and also there are restrictions laid down, and as it is, you see most of the defense establishments are basically located in garrisons, cantonments. As it is, the ingress and egress of people from these cantonments, from these garrisons, is controlled, is calibrated. So that's also an advantage, I would say. So I don't see that there is any kind of threat where this can manifest. This infection can manifest in a big way in the defense
All right,
establishments.
we're also joined by our Manipur and Meghalaya Bureau Chiefs. Our Manipur Bureau Chief Sharat Chandra joins us from Imphal, and Meghalaya Bureau Chief Roshan Rai joins us from Shillong. Sharat, Well, as we all know, for 14 BSF personnel have tested positive for COVID-19 in Tripura. Even Manipur shares borders. We have the Assam Rifles. We have other forces. Any concern in the state as such, and any information on if what kind of preventive measures are in place?
Yeah, Nabarun, so far as any of the infected paramilitary personnel in Manipur are concerned, so far there is no report. At the same time, from the day one, the movement of this paramilitary forces has also reduced up to some extent. At the same time, they are also adhering the old lockdown protocol, at the same time social distancing. So far there is no report of any infected security personnel in Manipur, even the state police. So from the day one also they are already in the ground, but there is no report of any infected security personnel so far, Nabarun.
Roshan, what is the, what about the BSF Meghalaya frontier? Any information on what are the preventive measures being taken? Roshan?
No such report has come in, but of course, the state government has already communicated to the BSF and all the other paramilitary forces posted here in Meghalaya to work in sync with the state government out here. And if there be any case or any symptoms or anything detected in those lines, they are to immediately inform the state government, so that the state government will also be in the loop and they can work out a strategy to work in tandem and move ahead.
Absolutely. Dr. Sangeeta Datta, it's not that we are naming the BSF or the CRPF here, it's just that it can happen to anyone at this moment. As the BSF IG, Tripura Frontier, rightly mentioned, that every possible measure has been taken. Nobody is allowed inside, nobody from outside is allowed to come inside the campuses. Even newspapers are delivered at the gate, they are properly sanitized. So same procedures for vegetables, milk, everything. So the forces are taking all the possible preventive measures. So it would not be right to single out. Why it has happened is because probably the nature of the virus is such. The nature of the virus is such, if somebody is infected and is in close contact with a lot of others, when you don't know, when there is no chance. Say for instance, the person who got infected in this case had no travel history, if we can say. He went from Assam on the 11th of March. He was put in quarantine. He was in quarantine for over 14 days. Only after finishing his quarantine period, he went to the BOP, then came back. So in all probability, he must have contracted that in the state itself. This shows that there is no room for complacency at any step, not even probably within the campus, your residential campus. You have to be that careful.
Absolutely, absolutely. And we have been repeating this time and again, that there's no room for complacency. Because, sometimes, like, let's say, for example, in Tripura, in 48 hours time, we have so many cases in the BSF who have come out to be COVID-19 positive. And before that, we didn't have positive cases. So let us not feel too happy too early, because like you said, it is the nature of the virus. We don't know the virus completely even now, because we are still trying to make a vaccine and we have not succeeded till date. So we don't know how much time it's going to take. We don't know if the virus would mutate in the future. We don't know if there is a second wave which is supposed to come. We don't know how the virus would behave in the winters. We don't know a lot of things about the virus. And when we know everything about something, about a virus or a situation, it's easier to manage. But when we are dealing with a virus about which we know maybe partially, we are getting to know, we are still in the dark to some extent, it's always inevitable. It's inevitably we have to follow all the guidelines, because if we are careless, if we cannot even afford a single slip, because the unknown part about the virus might actually lead to a disaster which we have not even anticipated till now. So please be careful.
Absolutely.
And another thing which I would like to share here is, in the BSF, or for that matter, even in the medical fraternity, or even amongst journalists, When people from a particular, our own fraternity get infected, then we also tend to get more careful. Not that we were not careful and not following the guidelines before, but now we are even more threatened by the fact that we don't know the virus completely. And so I think this will be an eye-opener for everyone, what has happened in Tripura, and all of us will get more careful, more cautious, and in case we were just getting complacent, so beware, don't be.
Absolutely. If I can go back to Lieutenant Colonel retired Suneet Newton. Mr. Newton, we have all been discussing about the cases in Tripura and the CRPF personnel getting infected in Delhi. Well, thankfully, there has been no such case in the Indian Army so far, and we pray that it doesn't happen. But then again, what lessons probably can the Indian Army take from this? Because nevertheless, it's an alarm bell ringing, sir.
See, Mr. Goswami, you have to see it in that perspective that, firstly, I'm not competent to speak on the paramilitary forces because,
yeah, we understand.
But certainly, as a as a generic statement, I can say that see the paramilitary forces per se by the nature of their duty, especially when you spoke of the CRPF personnel. They come into contact by the nature of the duty. They come into contact as the earlier question was how much contact you are coming into with the civilians, with the with people outside who have a chance of being infected. As it is in this country, there's a big thing which has come out is that a lot of people, in fact, about 70 to 80% of the people are asymptomatic. So basically, by the virtue of their, see, what happened to them is because they were doing the duty. They were doing the duty. They had to move out by the nature of the duty. So basically, they're coming in contact with people, and this kind of infection would have happened. At the same time, you see, defense forces, we have a philosophy of taking lessons. This is very important in all our training, manuals and our philosophies. We always believe in taking lessons. We never let anything of this kind, which is current in nature, go unnoticed. And out of those lessons, we try to draw deductions, carry out an analysis that why could this have possibly happened. So basically, because of that, certainly that becomes, terms of reference to which we can always refer to in, kind of strengthen our protocols and the dynamically developing, strategy against this war against COVID. As far as the paramilitary forces are concerned, as I told you, I really wish all the best to them. But they are also doing their duty. They are moving out on the street.
No denying to
because
that.
the CRPF personnel have to ensure law and order. And in the same way, the BSF personnel who are on various border outposts, they are in touch with people who are crossing the border. Like in Punjab, there are people who have to cross the border for various reasons. There's a controlled movement around that because of, there's a crop season also. Harvesting is going on. So that's the reason, Mr. Gupta.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much, Mr. Suneet Newton, for joining us. Appreciate that. Today was again the first day of lockdown 3.0. The measure, the relaxations, it came with a lot of relaxations. The relaxations came as a relief to a lot of people, but social distancing also went for a toss in several areas. If I can go back to Sharat Chandra, our Manipur Bureau Chief. Sharat, what was the scene like in Imphal as people came out, as relaxations were in place as part of the new measures, of course, under lockdown 3.0? What were the scenes where social distancing norms maintained? Did the cops struggle to impose the norms? Give us a sense.
Yeah, Nabarun, today the market was overcrowded when the relaxation was on and given all the shops to open. So even this city area city police OC Sudhir Kumar Tam that the people are engaging in panic buying. So all the social distancing norms were overrun during the lockdown relaxation hour, which people had given time to buy the essential items in the market area, like in and around Imphal. We have seen many shops were kept open during the relaxation hour. Earlier we have seen only some of the few these food items shops were kept open, but today during the relaxation hour many shops kept open, and which created overcrowded marketplace in around Impal, and who is also triggered some question mark to the lockdown protocol regarding the maintaining of the social distancing and all this thing. So now I think from today's relaxation hour, I think state government have learned one lesson, I think, and this relaxation, given categories of the relaxation hour, I think need to be reviewed once again, Nabarun, so that overcrowded can be avoided in the days to come.
Roshan, were similar scenes witnessed in Shillong as well, Roshan? What was the scene like in the commercial areas? Did people overcrowd? Were social distancing norms violated, Roshan?
Yes, Navarun, I would like to start with social distancing because it is something that the respective state governments have been trying to implement with little or very little positive results. And yes, similar was the case in Meghalaya also, no exception. Yes, it does seem that a lot of improvement has been made compared to when the lockdown started. But yes, that is still social distancing is still a challenge if we look at it, because nonetheless people were maintaining in certain areas, but there were also areas where we could see there was no social distancing at all. So this clearly goes on to show that this has been the most challenging thing to do. Nonetheless, the state government has come up with a lot of initiatives. Let's talk about getting to the grassroots. Coming up with committees, coming up with volunteers to see that when the shops are open, people maintain that. And yes, they have been successful to a larger extent, but still the problem persists.
And Sharat, say for instance in Guwahati, Sharat, the state government, the authorities have put in a plan where in areas where shops are contiguous, in commercial areas, you know, every third shop will open, the two other shops in between will stay closed. In Manipur, of course, we know that the markets are closed. The markets are closed here in Assam too. But in Manipur also, did you see in certain commercial areas that where all shops opened, or there was a selective, essential shops? Of course, from today, even non-essential shops are opening, standalone shops. But what about some commercial areas? Did majority of the shops open today? What is the scene like?
Yeah, in different districts of Manipur today, during the relaxation hour, we have witnessed many of the shops opening. Different items selling shops were kept open, and that could be the one of the main reason for the overcrowded of the people. That all the police team in the respective district had a very hard time to control the crowd, asking them to maintain the social distancing. So in the days to come, yes, we have given a very good examples that some selective shops should be given the relaxation hour. At the same time, this can be applied to in a phase-wise manner, so that all the shops in one line should not open in a very big way, so that we can avoid the overcrowded of the people. And when overcrowded happen, people always violate the social distancing norm, Nabarun.
Absolutely. Roshan, what about Police Bazaar or Khindailad, the commercial capital of Shillong, the main commercial area of Shillong, where shops open there, or of course the Bada Bazaar would be closed? What about Police Bazaar? Did some of the shops open there too?
No, Navarun, for all we know is that even Police Bazaar remained shut, but of course there were other shops that were open. Talk about essential commodities. As we all know, Monday to Thursday is the day for people to come out and shop for it. And yes, they were all open. Apart from that, a few electrical shop, hardware shop, and wine store. These were all open, but not that like Police Bazaar, there was no shops open.
Sharat, the Ima market, of course, the biggest market in Imphal, has also remained shut, and there are hundreds of shops there, hundreds of outlets. Of course, it has remained closed for close to a month and a half now. Any plans of any systematic opening of shops there, or the government is not contemplating any such move yet? And is any financial package also been thought of for these vendors who have had no business practically for the last almost 1.5 months, Sharat?
So far, Nabarun, the relaxation award is concerned. Relaxation award is not given to the precisely to the this IMA market. Manipur do have at the heart of the Imphal 3 sets of IMA market, where around 3,000 women vendors pull their business. So it is a very difficult area where the physical distance norms should be followed. So that is the perhaps could be the one of the reason that still now today is already this 4th May, so the relaxation hours not given, and I think in the days to come we can see some are given the time to sell and some are not, and even it can take in the alternate days form also. So the state government need to look into this matter also at the same time. If they are not pulling their business for a long time, it may affect their economy also. At the same time, it will reduce the socio-economic system of the state also. So Nabarun state have to find out its own way so that the normal business can pull out from this IMA market also, given different time to the different shop, so that physical distance can be followed during the market hours. Nabarun.
Sharat, my last question to you. What are the additional measures being taken for the return of the stranded people from the state and other parts of the country? We know that the first lot of 92 people reached day before yesterday. They were tested, all tested negative, have been sent to home quarantine. But the next lot which comes would be much bigger. Any added preparations being done by the state government and the health department in the state, Sharat?
You see, Nabarun, the government is collecting all the data regarding the stranded people in different parts of the country. They are collecting the information through the one website, that is www.tengbang.in. So through this website, many of the stranded people who want to come back to the state are applying. At the same time, few of them also want to stay back at their earlier places. So just you see, evacuating from Guwahati using some luxury buses, I think it is not a difficult task, but evacuating from the longer route, like this distance place like Bangalore, Chennai, Mumbai, Delhi, and Gujarat, I think it is not a easy task for the government. At the same time, if already the Dr. J. Suresh Babu, Chief Secretary of the state, have already expressed that without the help from the Indian Railway, the evacuation task will be very, very difficult one. So now government is collecting, and so far we do not see any arrangement of this railway. So in case evacuating by the buses, I think it may take very long time, Nabarun.
Thank you so much, Sharat Chandra, for all those updates. Roshan Rai, my last question to you. When are the first batch of those stranded outside supposed to arrive? Is it tomorrow? At least those stranded in other parts of the northeast. What are the updates that you have?
Yes, Nabarun, the state government is approaching it in a phase-wise manner. The first phase, the northeastern states, for which the registration was done, which has come to an end today. So tomorrow they will start coming in. And the second phase is for those stranded countrywide. Talking about the northeast states from where people will come in, starting tomorrow, those who have already registered and have private mode of transportation, they are allowed. Of course, they'll be screened at the various check gates. And if the need be, if anybody is symptomatic, they will be tested with rapid test kits. And if the need be, they'll be taken for confirmation by conducting the RT-PCR test. And if the need be, there'll be institutional quarantine. And for those who are normal, they'll be asked to do home quarantine. So these are the checks and balances that have been put into place for now.
And any quarantine centers at the border in Bernihat, Roshan?
Well, there are a lot of quarantine centers in various districts. And talk about Bernihat, let's say we were given to understand that there's a quarantine center already at Ripoy. So it's close by, so that is being taken care of.
Thank you so much, Roshan Rai, for all those updates. Thank you. Dr. Sangeeta Datta, what we have witnessed today, especially in Assam, is that social distancing norms have gone for a toss all of a sudden. Yes, people have been impatient with the lockdown, a lot of people, and there was concern also. But when things open all of a sudden, you also tend to get a bit relaxed, isn't it? Is that what we witnessed today, maybe?
Yes, we feel relaxed, and a lot of people, actually almost all of us, felt very relaxed, and it also makes us very careless. This again reminds me of the Spanish flu in 1918. People did feel relaxed after a span of a time when a lot of people, millions, died, and people thought the trouble was over. And a few weeks later, and people were very overjoyed, they were dancing on the roads, and then a few weeks later there was a second wave. So they often say history repeats itself. Let us not allow history to repeat itself, please. So that is one thing. When we look at the at today, let's say in Guwahati, we have seen that people have become careless. Some people, because they feel the sense of freedom coming back to them, and they have become very complacent also. They think that they're also in denial, some of them, like they think that trouble is over. But like I said, it is not over. It is just the first stage. When people who are stranded outside the state come back, we may see something which we have not expected till now. We don't know, but we are hopeful that we don't see that. But nevertheless, we should be prepared for it. And like we said, we discussed a short while back that we do not know the nature of the virus completely, COVID-19. So when we are fighting something which we do not know completely, it's always better to be safe and to be very, very careful. And some people, for no rhyme or reason, they have been not following the social distancing or even the guidelines also, which was seen today. So maybe a very small section of them could be slightly defiant too.
That could be a lot of it's very much mental. Maybe things are opening, probably things are falling into place. That feeling sinks in somehow.
Yes,
maybe
yes,
that's
because
why we
all
see
this while in the last 40 days, a lot of people were stressed out because they had lost their freedom, so-called freedom. They were within their homes, and not many of them were happy because this was something very new and they were trying to cope with it. And with the passage of time, they got very stressed out, they got anxious, they got depressed. Yes, people did try all methods to cope with the changes and to adjust with the new normal. But nevertheless, when they saw that, well, today things have relaxed, they thought that, perhaps a lot of them thought that, well, now it's time to rejoice, it's time to feel happy. But be careful. If you're not careful, then this happiness may not last, and this freedom may not last.
Absolutely. We are being joined over the phone line by Dr. Prasenjit Biswas, Professor Nehu. Dr. Biswas, first day of lockdown 3.0, social distancing norms have gone for a toss in many areas. As you have said repeatedly, time and again, are we also as a nation now slowly maybe thinking of the option of herd immunity?
Yes, I think lockdown couldn't flatten the curve. We have to accept that reality. And what is the way out then? The way out is to develop the herd immunity. That's the scientific teleology of the scientific ultimate goal of resisting a particular kind of epidemic or pandemic. Now, immunity has to be built up in the body itself, and that has to grow, in a sense, by a certain kind of contact as well as by a certain kind of distancing. So both contact and distancing would simultaneously remain as part of the society or community. So immunity must build up not only in the individual but also in the community. So the question is, by following a strict norm of social distancing, to what extent immunity could be built up in the community? That needs to be really examined. The other side of it is that if we start mixing too fast and too soon, when we are not so sure about the nature of the virus, as the other speaker has said, in such a context, there is the need for exercising certain amount of caution, and it's better to go by the medical guidelines. But at the same time, as these guidelines are only centering on the behavior of the individual and the crowd, but the guidelines should incorporate urgent medical strategies, which these guidelines do not have. The strategies that are to be adopted in completely containing such a spread of virus is not just breaking the chain of transmission by alienating and isolating individuals, but by stopping the virus actually, biologically, clinically, from spreading itself, and that requires a certain kind of medical intervention. And such interventions have to be creative, it has to be extremely sensitive, it has to balance between the social rights of people, and at the same time, it has to adopt certain means by which it can contain the virus. So that kind of working out at the lockdown 3.0 phase is absolutely needed.
And Dr. Biswas, a lot of people may be questioning why so much of a crowd all of a sudden when on the first day of relaxations. Maybe they were compelled due to economic reasons also, which we cannot deny for a fact.
Yes, economic reason is of course the main driving force, because sale must begin, the market must start, the supply chain and the linkages which spreads at the back here must be restored. And if that has to be done, then it has to be a kind of a holistic procedure. It has to involve the civil society, the individuals, groups of people, the producers, the market, and above all, the place and the space in which all such things can happen. So therefore, we need to reorganize, reintegrate our lives into a bigger supply chain so that the economic life can go on. At the same time, there are these basic questions of health and hygiene. There is question of individual rights. So rights have to be exercised to some extent, and that has to be facilitated. Everything cannot be suspended. Therefore, it's a question of finding out that golden mean where we do not endanger ourselves, and at the same time, we're able to run the life as
absolutely,
it were.
maybe more than rights, it's about the livelihood now. Thank you so much, Dr. Biswas, for joining us over the phone. We are also joined from Shillong now by Mr. John Kharshing, the chairman of the Grand Council of Chiefs. Mr. John Kharshing, welcome to Bottom Line. We all know just the other day, the Meghalaya Chief Minister had a meeting with the traditional heads, the Rangbashnongs, or the headmen, and the traditional leaders' bodies. We all know why, because thousands of stranded people from the state are coming in, returning to the state, and for that, in a place like Shillong, in a place like Meghalaya, we need coordination and cooperation from the headmen to ensure that all the quarantine rules are followed. You, being the chairman of the Grand Council of Chiefs, would definitely know how the headmen are planning to go ahead with things. Can you brief us a bit on that?
Yes, Nabrun, you see, it's a strange situation that on one hand, this challenge, this extraordinary situation that we are having right now in relation to handling this COVID. So the traditional bodies at every level are cooperating and giving all kinds of, trying to assist in the compliance of all these norms. It's not going to be an easy task. We are not yet clear. I don't have the exact input right now, but from what I can understand is that government may be allowing them to, I'm not yet clear whether they will be sent directly home or for a self-quarantine, or whether they will
That will depend, of course. Those are asymptomatic will be asked to be on home quarantine, but the headmen, because in places like Shillong, Meghalaya, even anybody entering locality, the headmen would usually know about it, and probably they will be of big a big helping factor as far as ensuring whether a person who has a home quarantine stamp is following it or not. So are the headmen gearing up to be up to the job?
Well, it would require a lot of cooperation. One is, fortunately, every village Darbar, they have this youth organization. It's like a village defense party, and so they would gather and decide on how to ensure compliance of a home quarantine if such a case does happen. In any case, by protocol, they are supposed to be all self-quarantine. And if you notice in the recent case in one of the villages, the entire village, along with the government authorities, ensured total compliance. So
yes.
I'm fully confident that the traditional institutions at the grassroots level, they will be able to ensure this, provided there is very, very effective communication to the last mile. There should be effective communication, And thankfully, a lot of awareness has taken place, sensitization. Deputy
So,
commissioners have
so,
convened
so,
meetings.
do you think, Mr. Khashing, by now, we still remember when the first case was reported, that of the doctor from the Bethany Hospital, there was a lot of panic and crisis, and people were kind of fear psychosis had gripped localities in Shillong. But do you think Shillong as a city has moved on from that phase, and now people are ready, to practically take on when somebody comes from outside? It's just a part of the system. It's just a part of the drill that needs to be followed. Has that sunk in now?
Yes, it has very much sunk in, but human memory is short. So I would appeal through this this platform today that the government agencies should constantly, because they have the wherewithal to do all the advertisements, all the awareness, getting all the village heads also to convene their respective elders to sensitize them. It's unfortunate what happened earlier, but I would say that by and large a lot of sensitization has taken place right now, and I should say that the government today also announced that a kind of a caution to all those wanting to come back, that it would take a while for them to even go back. So if they're planning to
Absolutely.
just come for a short stint to for a family reunion, they should carefully think about this, because if they are planning to go back after a week, it will not happen, especially in red zones all over the country.
Absolutely.
So this is one thing which government today has cautioned all those who are expressing intention to return, to be aware that to again go out of Shillong will also be quite a while
Not a
from now.
question, at least for a month now. Dr. Sangeeta Datta, well, what we see in a place like Meghalaya is that if the community comes together, I mean, that's the best way to do a thing, both psychologically, practically, physically. If the community is close-knit and doing things together, everything falls in place. The government just needs to play the role of a facilitator.
Yes, it's not only in Meghalaya, I feel, it's everywhere. Because I guess it's now the time, it's high time that all of us become socially responsible. And actually, if each one of us start thinking about ourselves, I'm sure many other things would fall in place. And I really liked what the previous speaker said. Public memory is very short. Yes, indeed. That's why awareness building, sensitization, it has to be an ongoing process. We cannot sit back thinking that we've done this earlier, so we shouldn't repeat this or something like that. People would forget. We need to remind them time and again, till the day we actually win this, we win over, we actually completely make this Covid-19 extinct, from our societies, from this world. That is important. And apart from that, I think more than people's rights, of course, like another speaker talked about people's rights, there has to be a balance between people's rights and responsibility.
Safety and livelihood
But
continue
I
to be
think
the
the
key.
onus lies on each one of us now that there is relaxation of guidelines and in lockdown 3. So we need to be responsible enough so that, our newly acquired freedom, we can enjoy that, we can work well, and yet we move towards hope and light. I mean, later we might have to even lose the freedom that we have newly acquired. So just be careful and follow the guidelines.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
And another thing, Nobarun, I think that we are healthy and we are alive. That's a bonus.
Absolutely. You summed it up very well. Thank you so much, Mr. John Khashing, for joining us from Shillong. Thank you so much, Dr. Sangeeta Datta. Well, rightly said, if we want to retain the freedom, we have to act responsibly. That's a wrap of Bottom Line. Thanks for viewing.